Welcome to Reality NSFW. We're talking Survivor Season 41, episode number 4. I am your host, Lauren Pratt, along with my co-host, Alex Rubino.
Hi, Lauren. And today we have an incredible guest. I'm so excited this person agreed to join us. It is none other than the incredible runner-up from Survivor Worlds Apart, and I may say the robbed winner of the season. It's Mama C herself, Carolyn Rivera. Carolyn, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome. We're excited to talk about this episode. I think maybe the best episode of the season thus far.
So far, so good. I mean, yeah, I think it picked up a little during this episode.
Yes, I texted Lauren right after I finished watching this of like, I am shot out of a cannon. This was amazing. I'm so excited that we didn't get all the twists and turns and advantages, and we got to see these people play Survivor.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
That's what we want to see, right?
Yeah, I think so. What were your initial thoughts on the episode, Carolyn?
Well, again, I think that the season, it's funny because when I talk to a lot of people, some people hate the season, some people love the season. There are a lot of twists and turns that are happening here. A lot of different advantages in play. In fact, I was talking to somebody today. I didn't even see, where at the end, I guess we'll talk about it, but I didn't even see where that extra vote went. So I must have missed that. But I like the fact that we got to see a lot of the players. We've got to listen to, some of their strategy. And I mean, there are a couple of standout players that I see right away.
Nice. Who are they? Let's hear it.
Well, I love Shan. I feel like she's my fave right now. She's playing an awesome game. I mean, there are, what it is with this season is that I think the cast is really good.
Yes.
I really, really like the cast. I'm not sure about all of the 3 people have to have the idol and you have to say whatever the hell you have to say. I don't even think I could do that because I wouldn't remember what I'm supposed to say. I'm like, wait, what? Something about butterflies and this and that. I'm like, I'll be pulling out the little clue and saying, oh, wait, I know what I'm supposed to say now.
Yeah. So you would kind of do it how Brad did it all over the place because Brad just, I think, kind of forgot what he had to say too, which made for a great TV moment. He was fantastic.
Oh, it did.
Poor Brad. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think there's anyone on the cast right now that's kind of under the radar that we could see maybe pick up a little bit in these next few episodes?
Well, honestly, I don't think that we've seen all the characters yet. I think, people that have gotten FaceTime so far, but I feel like there's a lot of people that haven't. I remember Leone in this episode was kind of like a little bit of a challenge beast. I mean, she felt, I saw her fly through this thing and we haven't really heard a lot from her yet. So I don't know. I think it's too early to tell.
All right. Why don't we try doing things a little bit differently? Do you guys want to start just talking about Tribal and the vote that happened? Because I think that's so interesting and we can go a lot of different ways with talking about the decision that these 4 people had to make.
I mean, Tribal was interesting. And the decision, interesting, right? Because now they better hope that there's a tribe swap.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which there has to be. There's only 3 people left on that tribe, so they're not going to leave it down to 2. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be a tribe swap, but because they're not going to win many challenges going forward.
I'm not banking on a tribe swap this
either.
season. I think they're going to stick with where they're at.
Well, then there were 2.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting because I think if they do lose the next episode, they're down to. Then I think we could see a Philippines type scenario where they say Shan and Ricardo, Shan, you go to Luvu, Ricardo, you go to Yasa, or something to that effect. But I also just want to point out this was a 4-person tribal council, and it was fantastic. This is why, Jeff, we don't need fire making at Final Four every year. This is why this vote was so interesting. Imagine if we just had, one of them wins a little challenge. All right, now pick 2 people to make fire. And we get none of this dynamic between JD and Jeannie and Shan convincing him to take the idol, to take the extra vote. We get none of that with the fire. I think that's what's so interesting about it.
I loved the discussion at camp right after the last tribal council.
Oh yes. All of us, we see Jeannie just completely losing it, and I understand
losing her mind,
and understandably so. I imagine getting completely blindsided and realizing maybe that she was very likely next to go if they lost again. How do you, coming back from tribal with your emotions as high as they are after having to, I know the trek back from tribal, you can't talk. So what's it like coming back from tribal, especially after you're maybe blindsided or upset or confused about what happened?
Well, I had that same scenario happen to me, actually.
Yeah, I feel that's why I brought it up.
I played an idol, so they all got screwed. Like, suckers, I'm back.
Yeah,
but
that's one of my favorite moments in the history of the game. Let me tell you.
When I got back to tribal, I'm back from tribal. They're like, "Why didn't you tell us you had an idol?" For this same reason. Why would I tell you I had an idol? Every single one of you, except for Mike, voted against me. My tribe. That's why I didn't tell you I didn't have an idol. That I had an idol. So yeah, but you can't play it that way. You can't, unless you are guaranteed to win the next immunity challenge, individual immunity, you got to figure out plan B. And plan B is not being pissed off at everybody because, they didn't tell you about the vote.
Yeah, I think just watching it, people feel as though they need an obligation from other people to know information. But if you tell people that, then of course they're going to have a plan B and not actually put the votes on you. And you're not going to have that brilliant idol play there. What I'm curious to know is Shan. I know I'm echoing a little bit. Shan kind of told Jeannie about knowing Brad's information. Do you think that was a good idea on Shan's part? Because I think he gave too much information.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a very bad idea. But, it actually worked in her favor because she got Jeannie back on her side, to vote out JD. But what was, the logic between keeping JD and Jeannie at that moment? I don't think either one would have made, either this way or that way. I don't think it would have made that big of a deal in terms of going forward. And
yeah, I think the biggest issue.
She was so much closer to JD. I don't know. I don't know who she felt most, closest to. Apparently not JD.
I would be alarmed though if I'm someone else that's on the tribe, just knowing that Shan just says, okay, everyone's telling me everything, because then that would maybe make me rethink my strategy. Okay, well, if Shan felt good with Brad and Brad was potentially a number one right there for her, who else is Shan's number one?
I'm not number one. That means all 3 of you were not number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she divulged a bit too much information. I don't think it was necessary to even say that, or especially not to say it in front of everybody else. Right? You walk away, you talk by yourself. But honestly, it didn't hurt her in this scenario.
Yeah. I think what could have been interesting is if in that instance of almost trying to comfort Jeannie by screaming at her, she says did you know right before tribal council, Brad told me this? Because then you can at least make the argument a little bit. Well, I didn't tell everybody because we had no time.
We couldn't, right? I couldn't.
Yeah, but
it still doesn't make you feel better when everyone's voting one way and you're the only one voting the other way.
For sure. But thinking about the vote that we're talking about Shan so much as the central decision maker here, and I think what's so interesting is she pretty much knew that she had JD's loyalty the minute he gave her the extra vote. But what would you value more in that moment? Having the actual advantage with you going forward, or having somebody who's a little bit erratic, a little bit all over the place, who's a big target, but seems like they could be loyal to you? What would you rather have, Carolyn?
I feel like in this game, having loyalty, if you feel there's loyalty there, that's humongous. The extra vote only lasts one round, right? And it may or may not ever even work, because in my season, the extra vote didn't work for Dan. But having loyalty for vote after vote after vote, I feel like that's a bigger advantage.
See, that's what I was thinking too, because if you keep JD in the game, he's always your extra vote if you actually genuinely trust each other. And then if you need that extra vote that he does have in a different round, then you have a lot of power there.
And he's erratic, so nobody's going to be looking at you. He's always going to be a shield.
My one thing with that, though, is with how erratic he is, I almost feel like his trustworthiness almost means a little bit less, because he's so erratic that he might just at one point realize, hey, I'm pretty good at this game. I'm in a good position. Why doesn't JD just target me? And I very well think he could at some point. He's like the player who's like loyal and like trying to be like the little kid almost that screwed up again to Shan. But at some point he's going to be like, oh, she's like the giant in this game. I need to take her out. Whereas I think if maybe it was like a Brad, for example, or somebody that you could almost say, all right, there's no way they turn on me, then I think you have a different argument. With JD in particular, somebody who's young, who's excited to play this game so much, and you've already seen could break your trust pretty easily. I like the move personally, even though.
But think of it this way. Did he do anything so far in the game against her?
I think by the fact that he didn't tell her about his extra vote immediately, while it's not like a bad move per se, I think the fact that she knows, hey, he had something, didn't tell me, so maybe I'm his number one, but I'm not that close with him where he would tell me.
He didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And he did tell her. So, right? So you can look at it both ways.
For sure.
Maybe he didn't tell her the second he got it, but he did tell her, and in fact he gave it to her. Yeah. So that in and of itself, in my opinion, I mean, it really doesn't matter because it hasn't changed her game in any way, but he did nothing so far against her. And Jeannie, well, she actually voted against Jeannie's number one, Brad, at that point. So she made her decision. I don't know what it was based on, but.
Do you think, though, that she shouldn't said, if she was going to do what she did in this round, get rid of JD, should she have just kept Brad? Because in my opinion, I don't think Brad was going to ever do anything super shifty. So if she really wanted that extra vote to begin with, should she have just kept Brad last round and cut JD loose then?
Again, I don't know what her logic was. You don't get to see everything. So I don't know what her logic was in keeping the people that she has so far and getting rid of Brad and JD.
What I'm curious to know is that if
Brad
Shan
has power, so with a lot of stuff, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, because Shan knew at the previous vote that both Brad had the steal a vote and that JD had the extra vote. Maybe she was thinking, and I could see it, whereas Brad is closer to Jeannie, or as close to Jeannie as he is with me. So maybe if I ask him for the vote, I'm in trouble with Jeannie, whereas JD has no one else to go to. So he'll give me the vote in a sign of loyalty. And part of me is thinking at that point, maybe she almost regretted not getting rid of him in the last round. And then she was like, all right, let me try to get the extra vote again. Oh, I got it. Now let me get rid of him so I have the vote.
So does she actually have the extra vote
yes.
right now?
She does.
Yeah, I missed that. I didn't see her take it back. When did he give it back to her?
Right before Tribal, she corners him and says something along the lines of, like, she made up this story that she thought he was going to work with Jeannie and target her. And she really played it up so well, I think, that JD really said, I believe Shan, and and that she thinks I'm going to blindside her, even though there's no way it's going to happen. So to put her at ease, I'll give her the vote back. And that's what I think was so interesting, that they're going back and forth on this. And Shan is playing like this, playing as if she's so emotional and so scared and has no idea what's going on. And then manages to pretty much play JD like a fiddle.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I was during that little piece, but I definitely didn't see that.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, I think the editing did a little bit of foreshadowing right at the beginning. Once Shan showed, Brad had the vote steal that none of you knew about. JD said this line, I'm quoting him: "Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, that's the end of it. You're not going to fool me twice." I think that was just a beautiful piece of foreshadowing that I caught the second time I watched the episode. I was like, oh, they were setting up JD's downfall so early and so beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him saying that, and I'm like, Well.
Okay. My one question for you, Carolyn, is if a player like Shan comes to you and says, "I'm worried you're going to blindside me. I want like your advantage to prove to me that you won't." How do you get out of it with that? I imagine you don't give up the advantage, but how do you placate that person into truly trusting you if you believe that they're like genuine about the threat that you may be to them?
Well, you have to, I don't know, it depends on like the person and everything. It's not like
for sure.
It's not a cut and dry scenario, but yeah, you do not give up the advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Like
I would be like, listen, this game is built on trust. You've got to trust people. I'm telling you right now, this is the way it's going to work, and shake on it or whatever.
Interesting.
So I want to know, because always everyone says never tell anyone about any of your advantages, and we see time and time again that people do. Is it just because sometimes you want to tell someone because you're so excited you have it, or what do you think ends up happening?
Well, I mean, in my scenario, Tyler was being so wishy-washy, and I needed him on my side. I didn't really want to play the advantage at that particular time. I like day 3. Come on, who wants to play it on day 3? First vote out. So that's the only reason why I told him. And when I told him that, I gained immediate trust because that's the type of person he was. And so then we were like bonded from there, and nobody knew it. So for me, it worked out. But yeah, the best approach is not to tell anybody, because, again, in my season, when the advantage was actually in my soda and I gave it away, which that could have changed the whole game. Not that I'm bitter in any way. But when Joe got the advantage at that point, and then, he told Tyler because Tyler saw it, and then Tyler, of course, told me, but then Mike knew something was up, so Tyler told Mike. That's how Mike found the idol, because Tyler told him, the clue, which, if he wouldn't have told him that, why would you tell him? Or if you're going to tell him, make up a different story. Don't tell him the exact thing that's on there. Change a few things. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then Mike found the idol. Once he found the idol, game on.
Yeah, so essentially what I sometimes think is maybe just reading the room and the people that you're out on the island with, I guess, because in your instance, you said it was good that you shared that information because you build instant trust, but sometimes people use it against you right away.
Yep. And you know what? It's a risk either way. So the risk is, do I have to play it right now or not? Because you want to be able to save it for when you really need it.
Yeah.
And listen, when I got those 2 votes, my heart was palpitating. Every time I see that first episode, even now, just watching it, knowing the outcome, I still get nervous. Like, oh my God, I might get voted off. It was so funny because at my watch party for that episode, of course, I knew I wasn't going home. My husband did too, because he was on the island, right? And we have like 30 people in the room. I'm at my brother's house, and my husband actually walks up to me at a commercial, and he's like shaking, and he says to me, Carolyn, if you get voted out this episode and didn't tell me, I'm going to be so pissed. And I'm looking at him like, are you insane right now? Like, have you lost your mind? I'm like, honey, you were on the island on day 36. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm like, but you get so into it. You know what I mean? Like, watching it or whatever, just you get so into it. So, when you're in that moment at that particular time, you don't know what the right thing to do is. Do I share the info? Should I not share the info? Either way, it's a risk.
Mm-hmm. I do want to get your opinion on the whole shot in the dark twist, because we haven't obviously seen anybody play their die yet, but I think it's had such an impact on the game, and especially this vote in particular, with whether Jeannie was going to play it or even if JD should have played it. What do you think about the twist as a whole?
I mean, put it this way. If I thought for sure I was going home that day, I would 100% play it, because what's the big deal, right?
Yeah, you lose your vote, but
you lose your vote, but if you're going home, your vote means nothing anyway. Yeah. And then you have a chance of staying. But 90% of the time, you don't really think you're going home, right? So unless it's cut and dry, right? But so far, I don't think in any of those scenarios was it cut and dry. It was mostly blindsides. People were like, wait, what? Me? Huh? Yeah. So in that scenario, you think you're safe. Like, even when I played my idol, I did not think that every single one of those people was going to vote against me. I thought I was going to get 2 or 3 votes, and I played it just to be on the safe side. But I did not think that I was going to have 6 votes against me and 1 vote with me, So I think those people are not using the advantage because they don't know. Like, JD was totally blindsided. That's why he didn't use it. So, but it is there for your, if there's something that bothers you, yeah, you lose your vote, but depending on how many people on your tribe, your vote may not mean anything anyway.
How much does it factor in the future of the game if you stay? Like, for example, thinking, oh, if I play my shot in the dark, whether I need it or not, I won't have it tomorrow, and I'm in a bad position. How much, especially early on in the game, like, for example, like you're saying your first tribal council, like almost playing your idol right there, like, how much does it weigh in the almost planning for tomorrow before you even have guaranteed tomorrow will happen?
Well, you can't, you have to play for today, because, if you don't play for today, you go home with an idol in your pocket and tomorrow doesn't come anyway. That's why you make decisions, but there are some times where you take a risk, but you always have to play today. You want to get through another tribal council.
100%. I just think if I'm out there, I would be the person who wants to save my idol for as long as I can, and I might be the idiot who doesn't play it and then is like, crap, I thought I could make it one more day. And it's like that gambling.
Don't think that didn't cross my mind when I played my idol, because I could only use it at one more tribal.
Oh yeah,
it was only one more tribal that I needed to hold on to it, and then I would have had it the entire game. But that came into play. I'm like, well, I can hold it for one more tribal, but what if I know I'm getting votes today? I'm 100% sure I'm getting votes. I don't think I'm getting enough to send me home, but I'm not sure. If in doubt, play your idol.
Well, the other thing I think about too, even with the shot in the dark advantage, is you might not need to play it and you decide to play it and then you don't get your vote, and your alliance might have needed your vote in order to send that particular person going home. So then you could be going back to camp, say you do get the safety and everything, but you weren't even going home regardless.
Right.
Then you have your allies potentially questioning you. Oh, you didn't trust us. Like, what's going on here? And so I also think that could hurt you in the long run as well.
Yeah. Yeah. There are so many risks that you have to consider when playing the game. You know, it's a head game. It's a head game. You know, it's a strategic head game. You have to kind of think, all right, should I do this? Because you have so many options. Every time you have so many options.
Yes. My one remaining question about like your episode playing the idol, before Dan got up to cast his extra vote, how sure were you that you were going to play the idol? And did it change once he revealed he had the extra vote?
It did not change my view.
Okay.
Because I knew I was getting votes. I didn't know how many. That vote actually didn't make it or break it.
Yeah.
Without that vote, the only benefit to that was we got that extra vote out of the game.
Okay.
But with Dan out, we got it out anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, I know everyone thought that I played the idol just because of the extra vote. I was playing it anyway, just to be on the safe side.
And that's why you're one of the greats. I am curious to think about where we go from here, because now this tribe is down to 3. Every one of them still has their shot in the dark die. Shan has an extra vote now. It looks like from what we're seeing, Jeannie is on the outs. I mean, we said that last time and she didn't go home, but now she looks like she's really on the outs of a tight twosome with Ricardo and Shan. How can she get out of this, do you think? If they go back to tribal. If that group of 3 goes back to tribal, how does she get out of it? Do either of you think it's possible?
No.
I don't think it's possible either. The only thing, she goes in, play the shot in the dark, and hope you're safe.
And that's the only way she stays.
Because I think Shan and Ricard, we've seen so much of them being in lockstep with each other, and I don't think they're going to break that duo up. I just don't see Ricard flipping on Shan to go with Jeannie, and I don't see Shan going with Jeannie to flip on Ricard. I just don't see it happening.
That's fair. My one thing that I think is probably Jeannie's best play at this point is almost straight up telling both Shan and Ricard, maybe separately or together, I'm playing my shot in the dark. There's 100% chance I'm playing it, so I won't have a vote. But if I am safe, if you both vote for me, you're going to fire. So figure something out. And maybe they vote for each other in that instance, hoping maybe she doesn't play it.
Well, they're not going to go to fire.
Would they? I mean, if
Jeannie go to fire, what they would do is go to rocks.
But if Jeannie plays her advantage, she is safe. Then there's only 2 people left. And they go to rocks,
and one of them goes home.
I guess.
That's the way I would see it, right? So it's a tie then. It's a tie, assuming she gets the advantage.
Yeah, she's safe. She can't vote. Safe.
So it's a tie. There's 2 people left.
Would they draw?
There's nothing else they can do because I can only vote for you. You can only vote for me.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tie 1-1.
Yeah. The only reason I'm thinking fire is because in Palau, when Oolong went down all the way to 2, they had them. Jeff had Stephanie and Bobby John making a fire to stay in the game. But that is interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be more exciting to go to rocks, quite frankly.
Oh, I think it'd be more exciting.
I feel like I shouldn't say this because I didn't even know this, but I feel like everyone playing Survivor these days should know how to make fire. I laugh at that because I didn't know how to make fire when I played.
You made it when you had to. You made it when you had to.
A fabulous thing to not know if you're going to play Survivor. But in this day and age, that was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever. Everyone knows how to make fire. So it's like, all right, so who can make it faster? It's much more exciting to go to rocks.
For sure.
Yeah, I think because in Palau they did that so long ago, I think now they are going to go to rocks as well. I agree.
Yeah.
Interesting. But Lauren, let me just ask you, if Jeannie's trying to stay, who should she try to target more? Who do you think she has a better shot of getting on her side? Because obviously Shan and Ricardo are both not likely, but who do you think she has a better shot with?
I think Ricard, to get Ricard on her side, only because Ricard has witnessed Shan having all this information, especially from Brad. And so I think if Jeannie wants to try and pitch it to someone, pitch it to Ricard and see if Ricard bites it.
For sure. I get that, and I think I agree with you. But the one
If Jeannie's smart, she pitches it to both and then decides.
Yeah, if she can figure out a way to get herself to be the swing vote, I think that's ideal. But if she can only get like one of them, I almost think there's a way she could maybe make the argument to get Shan on her side more. Because it's like, because already I think her and Ricard don't really like each other after Cheney voted for Ricard the first vote. Because from what I heard, exit press, Brad and Ricard hated each other. And since Jeannie was so tight with Brad, Ricard didn't like her as a result also because he voted for her at the first tribal. I think it's almost more likely that you get Shan on your side and saying, hey, Ricard knows all your secrets. Why don't you get him out?
Yeah, but I think the game changes so much and is so fast paced that once again, if someone votes for you, you might have to work with them down the road. And if they pitch you a really good case on why to go with them, I think you can forgive that person for writing your name down because look at it. Jeannie wrote his name down, tribal council number 1. A lot has happened since then.
But do you think Ricard is the person, Ricard and Jeannie are both the people to be able to reconcile those differences?
In the game of Survivor, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I went back to tribal council when 4 people voted against me and had to work with them because I didn't want my name showing up on the next vote. And guess what? It did it, which was a miracle, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to get some of your takes on the other 2 tribes because we really haven't talked about them yet. I know we still don't see much from Luvu, but this was the episode we saw the most from them. So what do you think the dynamic is over there, especially because, Erica all of a sudden got screen time?
Erica got screen time. I'm trying to remember who Erica was.
Erica was the one who was targeting Sydney. She was talking to Deshaun about, hey, why don't we get Sydney out?
Yeah, you might just need to pull up that entire tribe.
Yeah. I am pulling up the entire cast.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So,
all right.
Early on, so this tribe has been winning the whole game. They have not lost. They hadn't lost a challenge.
They haven't lost yet, right?
Until they lost the reward challenge, thanks to Heather in this episode. But I know you didn't really experience it because you went to the first tribal council. But what do you think it's like to play at this point 10 days in the game, not going to tribal? How antsy do you get? How excited do you get that you just want to get rid of somebody and play the game?
Never.
Never? Okay.
I don't think I don't agree with that strategy. That's not something that I would do. I'm like, if you're winning all the tribal council, you're staying away from tribal council. Yes, good. Don't try and get yourself to tribal council. I just feel like that's like karma.
So my one question with this is that, so Deshaun's pitch almost is you don't want to go in with a solid 6 intact because then you guys could be the first people targeted. So I kind of get where he's coming from, but at the same time, I think it's risky to throw.
Okay. First of all, my interpretation of that is, yes, you want to go in with 6 because then you're a majority. You're going to have maybe 12 at most at a merge. If you go in with 6, you are 6 strong. That's what happened with the blue collar tribe. They had almost all their players except for 1. Right? Yeah. Yes, you want all 6 of you. You're not going to be a target because you're going to be the majority. If those people can stick together, then they're going to run it. So but the
problem is that tribe looks like they would never stick together as a solid 6. And so that's where I'm coming from in the sense of people, I think, realize that they might not be on the top of that Luvu group and say, all right, I'm going to go work with those other people and just chop off these 4 people that think that they're running the show from the blue tribe.
Yeah. and then they're at the bottom of a different tribe. So
Yeah.
you know.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that's crazy.
Here's the thing. My philosophy, if you get to the merge, there's 12 people. You're at the bottom of your 6. Okay, well, you're making it to final 6 then. Deal with it when you get to final 6. Win some immunity challenges. Change how you sit within the within the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start flipping over at that point, you're still at the bottom, and you know these people for a lot less time than your own tribe. So unless you just can't get along, and like there's just like, I say no, don't throw it. Go in, with the majority.
I think what's so interesting about this group is that I think they're so dysfunctional despite having won everything. I think if it was a situation where, okay, there's a tight 5 and like say Erica or Heather are just clearly on the outs and you're worried about them maybe ruining your game when you get to merge, maybe I can understand you throwing the challenger. And I think there's a benefit to it of, all right, you have a group of 5 versus like a group of 3 and a group of 3. And you at least have like a strong, tight-knit group. But in this instance, I don't think any of them are that tight. It's like, I think Danny and Deshawn are pretty tight. I think Sydney, they're tight with Sydney to an extent, but Heather and Erica and Nasir have all talked about, let's get rid of Sydney at different points in the game. Right. And so I think the 3 of them could honestly either work together and just combat this insurgents, or even like break off on their own, and then this tribe is completely a dysfunctional mess. So at this point, it's like any of them could really go if they go to tribal. So it's like I would just keep your group of 6 and.
Well, I don't think any of them are going to go if they go to tribal. I think Deshawn looks pretty safe right now. I think Danny is going to be okay, even though Nasir put Danny's name out there. Nasir is now more mad at Sydney because Sydney went and told the entire group. So I think on that tribe who's in trouble, I think the girls are honestly in trouble on that tribe.
I agree with you there, but here's the thing. You just laid out a possible scenario where Danny goes home. I can lay out a possible scenario where Deshawn goes home with he was the one who spilled the beans from Erica. That gets back to Erica. Erica maybe wants his hat on a silver platter anyway. And everybody else on that tribe, Erica obviously being targeted by Danny, Deshawn, and Sydney. Sydney being targeted by Erica, Heather, and Nasir at this point. Nasir being targeted by almost everybody at different points of the game. Like everyone theoretically could go on this tribe, and I think maybe the safest person is Danny. But even then, it's like, if you're the safest person with this group of 6, why do you want to go to tribal? I don't know.
I don't know why they, the way that I would play it is just keep winning.
For sure.
Keep winning. See what happens. Deal with it, when you have to. Believe me, they're going to go down to 2 tribes at some point. They're going to break it up.
But what did you think about the editing choice that they did of having confessionals from Danny and Deshawn during the challenge? Because I thought that was a nice, like, little editing twist that they did right there. When they talked about, we're trying to throw this, like Deshawn saying, I'm literally tying up knots again so that we go slower. What did you think about that?
Well, I thought that was hilarious. I think they edited it in because you would not necessarily see that he was tying the knots.
For sure.
Right. And so they wanted to show, like, we're so trying to throw this and we can't even throw it and we're tying knots. It was awesome. Like that's it's just hilarious because the other tribe was so bad.
Yeah, I mean, you have people swimming in the wrong direction. It's just like that was my favorite part. It was a hot mess. But the thing about it is with Luvu, Nasir obviously had no idea about the challenge being thrown at all. And he's just chugging along like, yes, I have this. Don't worry. We're going to get through it. And Danny's sitting there. I wasn't trying to help, but Nasir just was plowing and I had no choice.
Yeah. Right. I think that I normally don't love the challenges, but this challenge had so many good moments to me. I think the one moment where at the while Luvu and Uwa are like trying to untie knots and Yasa is so far back in the water. Evie's literally swimming in the wrong direction. Jeff is one of my favorite lines of A for effort, maybe a B- for direction, which I think was generous. Evie was completely in the wrong direction. And then we have the Deshawn moment.
And it looked like she wasn't moving anyway, so it didn't really matter because she wasn't pulling anybody. It looked like she was just like stroking the water in place.
She looked like she was blind.
Yeah.
Like she just could not see. And maybe that's the case with her glasses, but
I feel like it would be really difficult to swim with glasses on.
Oh, 100%. I think she maybe didn't have contacts or something. And she's like, at this point, blind. But just, I love that we have Deshaun saying, yellow is so far behind, we're trying to throw the challenge to them and they can't even win it. And then they end up coming in first place, which is just beautiful irony to me.
Yeah, but I will say, with the challenge overall, with JD saying money, and then you get Shan's confessional where he should have just said tribal because that's where they ended up, was gold. It was perfect.
It was gold. Now, this challenge brings me back to heroes versus healers versus hustlers for a minute, because I just remember like it was the moment where we learned about like Lauren Rimmer being a beast when she's literally using her boobs to like push the wood through, and we had Jeannie doing the same thing, and I'm like, this is. It made me love Jeannie even more, just because like the guys are like pushing and I'm like go, and she's just like, no, I'm just gonna use my body and push it, and then Xander and like Nasir learned, oh, maybe that's a good idea, we should do that. It just gave me such comedy gold throughout, and it's like, again, and Nasir being Superman. Nasir was Superman in this. It was great.
I loved the challenge, actually.
Yeah.
Carolyn, I do want to know, any challenges this season, are there any that you would love to have been able to participate in?
Well, I actually would have loved to participate in the one where you have to throw the ball up and go through the maze, because that looked like super fun.
Unless your name's Heather.
Yeah, she didn't love that challenge. I felt so bad for her. I was just like, okay, you've got to throw that ball so high up and make it like right on target and then quickly run through, because she wasn't fast enough through that maze.
No.
But that looked like a fun challenge. And that's the one where I feel like Leonie just like was at the end, like waiting for the ball. You know what I mean? She sped through that challenge so fast.
Maybe it's me, but this season, has Jeff been a little bit nicer in the challenges? Because I feel like if this was like some season the best, we would have just been hearing him eviscerate Heather the whole time. Like, Heather has moved nowhere this entire challenge. Luvu has no shot of winning, but instead he's being like supportive and like, Heather, you could do this. Come on.
I feel like he started out by saying, and Lulu is whatever the tribe name is, getting nowhere. And then he realized that they're really getting nowhere, and he's not going to berate her, right? So I felt like this was like the same moment as Siri when she couldn't get across that beam in the water, remember?
Yeah, but I feel like that's Suri, who's like a legend and has played the game 4 times and all that. And it's like a little tough to eviscerate her. But I feel like Jeff that his job in the challenges is to annoy and eviscerate people. Like, that's what he does. It's just a little.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah, what is that? What is that like? Like hearing, like, how do you try to tune him out?
Sometimes, I used to get annoyed. Like, on one of the challenges, the pole challenge, I thought I was kicking ass in that pole challenge, and he's like, talking about everyone else, doesn't say a word about me, and I'm like, hello, I'm standing up here, like, come on, and like at that moment, I wanted him to say, and then finally he said, and Carolyn hasn't moved an inch. Yeah, fine, about time. It's been a freaking hour. It's like. But there are some funny moments when he says things that you're just like, oh my God, that is hilarious. and you're glad it's not you, because on the challenge in the water where Will just could not get through that maze in the water, that was probably one of the funniest moments of Jeff, like just tearing his ass up. Yeah.
But how hard is it, like, when you're doing like one of these obstacle course things or like puzzles? How hard is it to tune him out, or is that or you're not trying to tune him out at all?
Listen, he talks a lot.
Oh yeah.
Throughout all the challenges, and so I mean, I remember the puzzle challenge that took us an hour to unscramble that puzzle,
Oh
but
my God.
um,
One of my favorite moments ever, where he's telling you the answer to the puzzle and none
he's
of you can
literally,
listen.
and I'm listening. But listen, I'm from New York. We don't use the word fixin'. What the hell is fixin'? You know, like, and I kept saying to my tribe, I'm like, listen, if I get the X, I will get this entire thing. I just need to figure out the X. And Will is like, I think it's wax. I'm like, it's not wax. Okay, it's not wax. Or whatever, you know, he said it was just like something off. And I'm just, all right, just give me some time. Let me think it through. And then I started listening to his clues. And then, you know, I think I remember him saying something like, this is not a word that you would use all the time, but I use it here a lot. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's not a word I would use ever. But then as soon as it hit me and I looked down, I had the whole thing. I got the whole puzzle.
Well, and I think that's interesting too, because us as viewers, when we're watching, you can see when it clicks in a person's mind that, all right, they're onto something and they have it. And then you just like quickly move things around and then you just get it. And then it's always great watching people from the other tribe or other group that you're competing against just say, what are they doing? They're moving pieces around, then they get framed. Great.
Yeah.
I am curious what you thought of like the reward challenges. What I found so interesting was the disparity between the first and second place prize of like you win this reward challenge, you get Nathan this like monkey of just like who could like climb every tree, is like the survivor god basically in terms of like getting you coconut, doing this second team to finish. A fish that's been sitting here in the sun for a while that probably has flies all over it.
Okay, well, I saw that too, and then I was thinking, all right, you get Nathan for one day. All right, what is he teaching you in one day? Who's climbing up that tree and getting the coconuts? I'm like, okay, Nathan, I love you and all, and thank you for the coconuts, but
we need more.
Your skills are your skills. Those are not our skills, right? We're not going to walk away with those skills after you being here for an hour. So I feel like they got a nice meal out of it. But as far as like learning the jungle at that point, if you didn't learn it already, you're not learning it that day in 2 hours. When he climbed up that coconut tree, I was just like, okay, is he like, he's definitely Tarzan. Like, how did that happen? And then he's upside down and he's getting coconuts, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, it's a great reward for that day, but it was a reward for that day. It wasn't going to last very much longer.
I am just curious from your season, were there any of the rewards that you kind of had to fake excitement for? Where you just want to say, really, Jeff, why are we giving this out? Okay.
I'll tell you one reward that I was pissed at. Because, I mean, I actually went on every reward except for one, the candy reward. I didn't win the M&Ms, which I was really annoyed about. But we had dessert on almost all the rewards. Yeah, there you go. And the one reward that it was me, Will, and Mike. We went on the helicopter. I mean, we had great meal. It was filet mignon and lobster, like 2 pieces of filet mignon, 1 lobster, mashed potatoes, salad, bread, no dessert. I was like, I have a sweet tooth. Where is the dessert? Somebody better go find me a piece of pie or something. No dessert. And I complained that entire, I was like, where's the dessert?
And I'm sure you got absolutely no explanation why there was no dessert present there.
Because the guy who bought the meal forgot the dessert.
Was that actually it?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I didn't even think about dessert. You always think about dessert. Like, what is wrong with you? We're starving here, buddy. Dessert, yes. When we went on the boat, we had a pecan pie the size of Texas. It was humongous. I'm like, okay, now we're talking. Okay.
So you did get all right. So you did at least get dessert on that challenge.
Yes, and pina coladas, which is
Oh.
not good on an empty stomach. Just saying.
I always want to ask about that. I just can't imagine drinking alcohol out on the island after having nothing in your stomach, but yet everyone seems to do it.
Because it's like you're so excited that you have more than just rice, like a cup of rice. You're like, oh my God, yes, I'm having a pina colada. And then 2 seconds later, it's like, yes, I'm having a pina colada. I had 2 pina coladas. I was a little tipsy, I'm not going to lie. But that challenge, that reward, I couldn't even finish the food. The hamburger was literally humongous. Humongous. I could only eat half of it.
That's amazing to think about with how starving you are out there that you couldn't finish like a burger like that. Like it was that big.
It was that big. There was no possible way for me to finish it. And you could have had multiple burgers. Yeah. I'm like, there's not a shot in hell. No.
My other question.
And then I had a little bit of pie, 2 pina coladas, and a little fries. That's all you need.
Were there any rewards where the food didn't taste good? Like I'm genuinely curious. Like I've heard, like we had Brett on a couple weeks ago. He's always railed about how bad Survivor's pizza is. Like, was there any food that you had that just didn't taste good? And you're like, really?
I mean, I had pizza. It was fine. I don't know. I mean, no, it wasn't. I didn't really feel like. I mean, the Spanish food was good when we went to the orphanage. That was delicious. The beef stew was good. The hamburger was good. The filet mignon and the lobster was good. Yeah, I feel like all the food was fine.
Nice. That's good to know. But really quickly, so we talked about Luvu. We saw a lot of Luvu. We saw like the teeniest bit of info from Yasa was where they ate the fish and then they find the baby turtles. Like, did you, when you played, did you guys ever see like any turtles or any like animals or anything like cool that like didn't make the show? Because I thought this was just like so sweet.
Well, no, on one of my rewards, we actually went to the turtle farm and saw the turtles in action.
I do remember that.
But no, there were really the only thing on my season from an animal perspective was we had scorpions, we had snakes, we had howler monkeys. That was pretty much it. We didn't have anything else, hermit crabs or, those orange crabs that are like, Olympic runners because you think you're going to catch one and then 5 seconds later they're diving in a hole and you're like diving on the beach like, I got you this time, boom, and you don't have anything. Well, that was just white collar because then when you go to the no collar beach, they've got bags of freaking crabs, those orange crabs. And I'm just like, how did you guys catch those?
I love how you said Olympic runners. That's
hilarious. Me too.
But I thought it was a beautiful moment where we got to see the little turtles. It was so cute. And we don't get to see that as much. And that's the thing I do appreciate about Survivor. I just want a little bit of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're in the outdoors, you're in the elements, you're with nature. There's, bugs and animals and, reptiles, fish all around you. Yeah. All day, every day.
For sure. And there were just a couple of lines I just want to point out that like made me just crack up laughing is when we're at Luvu early on and like after Erica tells Deshawn that she wants to get Sydney out, we cut to Sydney and she's like trying to make a fire and is failing at it and then just like throws it on the ground and the Sears is there is like, thank you, Flint. It just like shows me how much like maybe I don't know what they're doing, but they're just trying to get us to love Nasir, and I'm just like, you got me. You got me hook, line, and sinker. I love this guy. He better not get voted out soon, or else I'm going to be devastated.
Yeah, no, he's got some outdoor skills, and so maybe not everyone does know how to make fire with Flint. Clearly.
Yeah, Sydney, what were you doing before you got out there? You had a year to prepare in quarantine. Like none of these people should have an excuse now.
I mean, I even bought Flint. In case I go back, I'm going to actually open the package.
That's awesome. So we've talked about this before. where we've talked about how important is someone that is good at the survival portion of Survivor in terms of them being on your tribe. Like, is that a huge asset to have, or is it someone where you're like, yeah, I can probably just cut them loose?
No, it's a huge asset. I mean, I literally was a Girl Scout for like 10 minutes. So I didn't have any outdoor skills, but I thought that other people would. I worked up until the day before I went. So when you're on a tribe with 6 people and nobody knows any outdoor skills, you're screwed, right? Like, we had no fire for 3 days. Our shelter, I feel like if we took pictures of our shelter, it would be voted probably the worst shelter in the history of Survivor. We did the same shelter 3 times over and didn't change one thing in the architecture. I'm like, why are we doing the exact same thing? That's insane, because it's going to feel the exact same way that it did yesterday.
The only group that I think can rival the white collar tribe there for a shelter was Saboga in All Stars, with the shelter that Rupert was building into the ground.
Okay.
I will never forget that. They're all just like, Rupert, what are you doing? But they all went along with it, and they're like, well, this stinks. And
so we built a shelter on a tree trunk, right? And tree trunks are not flat.
Yeah.
So needless to say, the shelter was not flat on either end. And I'm like, why wouldn't we do it like a bed?
Whose idea was it?
Like what a bed looks like, a frame of a bed, and try and build something like that. Nobody wanted to listen to me, and I'm just like, whatever, because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But yeah.
Who were the geniuses on the white collar tribe that said, let's do this, let's build it on a tree trunk, and then let's do it again and again and hope we get different results? Like, who was the mastermind of these ridiculous plans? I need to know.
Well, I mean, Max is one of my closest friends, but I'm pretty sure it was Max.
I love Max, but oh my gosh.
Or you're just throwing him under the bus since you guys are close friends. He won't take any offense to it, you know?
Well, he won't take offense to it anyway, but no, because I remember talking to Joaquin, and this was like day 4, and we're redoing the shelter again. And I'm just like, you realize we are doing the exact same thing, except now what you're doing to the shelter is you're nailing it into the tree trunk. That was awful the first 2 times you built it. And he's like, Max wants to do it this way. I'm like, I'm not helping. You guys are insane. Like, seriously, I don't understand.
It's amazing what happens when you put a tribe of like business people together.
Right, exactly. And you're just like, okay, look, you got this. I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna try to make fire, which I can't do, but I tried for 5 hours straight.
Well, then we also, they just seem to be sleeping on the beach. So that's kind of
on the beach a lot, which was really good, except it gets cold at night. So then at night, you know, we always started at the beach on White Collar Tribe. Always started at the beach, and all the crabs would be crawling all over you, and you're sleeping, and then it gets cold, and then you go back to the fire when we had a fire.
So how much sleep do you think you got on average a night, on a good night?
Well, okay, so my tribe, I swear to God, they could sleep anywhere. When the White Collar Beach, as soon as the sun went down, those people were sleeping.
Everybody?
Almost everybody, yeah. Everybody, except for me. I'm just like, guys, it's 8 o'clock. What are we doing here? Like,
that would be
the night's young. So they were out cold. And I am literally, the worst part about Survivor was the nights. Because I maybe got 3 hours of sleep a night. And I would just walk the beach back and forth.
Looking for an idol.
I'd look at the stars. I'd watch the moon. And I would go back, close my eyes, look back up. I'm like, oh, it's only moved a tiny bit. Yeah, it was awful. I absolutely hated the nights. They were the most boring. And, you know, the camera crews don't talk to you. They didn't even follow me anymore because what are they going to do? She's just walking the beach by herself.
It's like you're not going to find the idol you already found.
Yeah, and they already know that.
Yeah.
So,
So what I
Although
find interesting, I was just going to say, what I find interesting is in this season in particular, there's not really any dead days that they have. And I've heard that the day off is the longest day ever.
Horrible. Yeah. When you're doing nothing, it's boring. You're literally like, go to tree mail praying for an obstacle, a challenge, you know? And then it's like, oh, there's nothing there. That means we're sitting here doing nothing. All that means is get firewood, sit in front of the fire. Get firewood, sit in front of the fire. We played games, you know, because I was on that tribe. I'm like Julie from the Love Boat. So the activities director, like, come on, we played categories. We played some games. Have you ever heard of the game, I'm going on a picnic and I'm going to bring?
Yes.
Yes.
We played that every day. Yes.
Who was the best at it?
Bringing that to Survivor. Yep. You're not allowed to sing songs because, you know, you can't sing other people's music, copyrighted. So I'm like, okay, well, that takes away a lot because, you know, you could sing all day or whatever. So, yeah, you had to think about other things. We played categories with food.
Oh, God.
Yeah. All right. Let's think of cookies. All right. Then you go around and you can't say the same cookie twice.
Did you use any of these games for like a strategic benefit of like trying to see maybe like who was the best at it, like who had the best memory, who was like the most like aware of things, or was it just like trying to kill time?
I was just so bored. I'm like, okay, people, here's what we're gonna do.
So, was there anybody on like any of your 3 tribes that was like good at like really good at these games or really bad at them that was like memorable?
No, not memorable.
Nothing.
Not memorable. I mean, towards the end, we started getting really good at like figuring out really weird things to like really hard ways. You know, like, so we played on the White Collar Tribe since day one. So then by the time we were together for like 12 days, we were good at it already. Then during the, you know, the mix up and we got to the other beach, the no collar beach, you know, we were really good at it and they all sucked at it, right? And so then we taught them. And then by the time we got to the merge, you know, we were really good at it and the people there sucked at it. So, yeah, you know, it was kind of a learning experience for everybody.
I love learning about this stuff, like the stuff we don't see on TV. This is just like, it meant nothing into the game, but it's so interesting to me, like the way you guys kill time out there. And how do you think the game being 26 days would matter? Like if you were playing the game, maybe like you didn't get rice or anything, but you didn't have the dead days. Like how would that be different for you?
It might be fun, you know, not to have all the dead days, you know, just sitting around the beach. But I don't know, you know, like you also, even though the dead days are really boring, like when we got to the merge and we had paint and, you know, paint brushes, like we all found rocks. Like I brought everyone in my family back a rock that I painted specifically on the beach and gave it to them.
Aww.
You know, my mother, my kids, my husband. So, you know, you don't get to do that if you don't have time. And then Rodney wrote down a list of all the food he was going to eat the minute he got home.
And I guess he ended up following through on that list.
Probably, yeah. We talked about it nonstop for, you know, a lot of days.
I'm curious from you, what was like the first thing you did when you got home? Like, what was like first thing you ate or did?
So my family, all but my oldest daughter, she was out of town. She lived in Miami. So my 2 kids and my husband met me at the airport, and we went to Chili's and had food. And then they were like, all right, tell me everything. So then I did a full data dump with Gabby on FaceTime on the table in the restaurant, and told them every single thing that happened on the show. And I was like, I will never do that again, because then it takes away from all the good stuff that happened.
How long did it take you to tell your kids and husband everything? Like how long were you at that table?
2 hours maybe. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm always interested to know too, after Final Tribal Council concludes and everything, what kind of goes down after that? Because obviously you guys go back to Ponderosa, I'm assuming, but what's the time frame of you guys being there and then actually getting to go back home and everything?
So we get there probably 11 o'clock at night. We get a shower. We brush our teeth before we do anything. And then we eat dinner. They make us food. We all sit around the table. And then it's party time. Everyone's partying, music's going, dancing, this, that, and we leave at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So you were like tired, likely hungover on your long flight back to America after. Wow, that is interesting. And I know, like, I've heard so many players say that like Final Tribal goes on for like 6-7 hours even.
So long.
Yeah, but I am just curious. We go back to this episode really quickly. Did it ever make a difference to you if, like, say somebody you were playing with was a little overconfident in the challenge? Like what we have with JD at the end of the episode, like him shouting money as he's throwing the tossing the rings and losing. Like, would something like that make a difference to you versus him just like kind of
I
sucking
mean,
at
that's
it?
like a showboat.
Yeah, would
I don't know. No, I mean, it depends. You know, if he was my alliance member, I'd be like, really? But you know, listen, it's easy to say that now, but I didn't have that on my tribe ever. Because if you think of it this way, you're searching. You know, if your tribe loses, you want to make sure to get everybody not thinking about you, but thinking about somebody else. And so, I mean, I don't think that it would be unreasonable to say, oh, really? Did you hear him at the end?
Yeah. I think that was just so interesting, not for like the fact they said it, but the fact of like it's something Jeff is going to draw attention to, and that's like anything that's going to draw attention to you, and especially with the tribe of 4, where you're already one of the 2 people being discussed as a threat target. Like, it's something that I feel like JD probably said right after, like, "Oh crap, I shouldn't have done that."
Well, he probably really thought he was going to make it.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Oh yeah, because I think he was really gung ho with saying it. Oh, 100% I have it.
Really money.
And I mean, he celebrated. Nasir celebrated at one point, thinking he made it, but then they both missed, and Nasir was just fast to come back. But maybe one of my favorite confessionals, if not my favorite of this episode, is what Shan says after the challenge. I actually wrote down the whole thing if you want to hear it. Saying Jeannie's the one on the outside, but JD wants to be the superstar, looking like Allen Iverson. He's like, money, and it doesn't land. We're like, there's no money here. You should have shouted tribal, because that's where we ended up. I don't know why it's the way she said it. Oh, you should have shouted tribal. Got me going. I don't know, but it's like it made me fall in love with Shan even more, because
well, she's got some. You know, it's funny because some people are really mad at her because she's a pastor. And how could a pastor lie? I'm like, the game is Survivor. Don't be hating on her because she's making moves in a game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. She should be able to do what she wants. Everyone signs up for a different reason. And that's the thing I always have an issue with people bringing in someone's occupation. So just because they're that person outside of the game doesn't mean anything. They're inside of this game, and everyone's there for a particular reason. And Shan, to me, is there to win it the way she's playing so far. And so I don't think you can fault someone for playing a game and lying and being deceitful when everyone else can be lying and deceitful to each other.
And then, so how can you get mad at her and not get mad at, like, you know, somebody who's a cop or a teacher or, you know, whatever profession they are? It doesn't matter. Why is it a pastor, you know, is so much higher than a teacher? What are you going to lie to your students? You're a cop. What are you going to lie to the people? You know, it's the same thing.
It's like something I imagine even you experienced it a little bit, like being a mother out there. Like, we always see so much of like anybody who's a mother being targeted at especially like Final Tribal, like, oh, you acted like my mother and you betrayed me. What, just because you have kids means that like I'm supposed to like lie to you? You're not my kids. I'm out there for my kids back home.
Right. Like, and oh, by the way, this is how you play the game.
Yeah. And it makes me admire a player like you so much more because of the adversity you had to deal with, because of that extra challenge you had. like, did it cross your mind at all, like during the game, of like how much it meant to people, of like the way you were viewed just because you were a mother and had kids back home?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, well, I remember on the episode where Shireen and Will had their little fight. And I wasn't even at Tribal then because I was doing a confessional. So I didn't even see that fight until it aired on live TV.
Oh, wow.
I never saw it. And then I remember on Twitter, I was getting such hate. You know, like, you called yourself Mama C and you didn't even protect Shireen. I'm like, first of all, I wasn't at Tribal Council. Why don't you rewatch the episode before you start saying that? And then my son says to me, Mom, why are you responding? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, one person who makes a comment, but you get so sucked in. And yeah, you know, first of all, when you're an older woman playing Survivor, they want to get you out first right away. And then if you have any, strategy or any of that, or you vote this way, you vote that way. Yeah, people look at it like, you shouldn't be doing that. How could you not tell me? Because it's Survivor. That's why.
And I think that points to one person on each of the tribes in this game. You have Heather, clearly the oldest person on her tribe by far, who also didn't do that great in the challenge. Jeannie, who her and Brad were the oldest, but I think the fact of her being the oldest woman out there puts an extra target on her back. And then you have Tiffany, who very clearly, like, especially early on in the game, like when she had the balance beam, stunk at it, and you're having like her as the oldest woman. I just don't know. I'm curious how she made it to the end of the game. How would she have to like flip the perception about herself to be able to like play hard and also like win the game? I don't know.
I think honestly, if we could have gotten Mike out, I would have won the game. Because I won immunity challenges, because I had the idol, because I think it's the full story. So if you get to the end, you have to have a story.
For sure.
Right? What's your story? How did you get to the end? Yeah. Were you taken to the end, or did you get to the end?
For sure.
Right. So my question then is, if you did end up taking out Mike, who else would you have wanted there with you at the end?
Will, for sure.
Right.
Rodney?
And Rodney.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Rodney thinks if he was sitting next to me and Will at the final tribal that he would have won the game.
Oh, of course Rodney thinks that.
He wouldn't.
No, of course he wouldn't. Thank God he wouldn't.
I would have had a lot of votes.
Oh, I imagine.
Yeah, I think you would have as well. But I know we haven't touched on the Yellow Tribe as much, and I just want to get your opinion real quick. Who do you think is actually somewhat running the show over there? Because we've seen Evie has done a lot, where was in good with Voce, Xander, and then also had Liana and Tiffany. But in my opinion, I think Liana is a little bit of a sleeper potentially. I think Liana knows what's really going on over there and could actually take control of that tribe if
100%.
need be.
I think Evie and Xander right now are running it. I don't think they're going to run it the whole game.
Okay. So if that tribe were to go to tribal, if that tribe were to go to tribal, who do you think would go?
Bearing in mind that Xander still doesn't have a vote.
And everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone knows it.
Yeah. All right, let me think. Evie, Leonie, who else?
It's Evie, Liana, Tiffany, and Xander are the four in that tribe.
Well, they might just get rid of Xander.
Okay.
If the girls can stick together, they'll get rid of Xander. Because remember, they voted together once already. They saved Tiffany the first time. So if they're going that route, they'll stick together. Because
originally I always kind of thought if they had gone back to tribal a lot quicker, Tiffany could be in trouble because of the challenge performance. But if you look at the past couple of challenges, Tiffany's been kicking ass.
Yeah,
so
she said that too. She
Yeah.
She recognizes that she's done much better than that.
Does everybody else recognize that is I think the important question.
I think so.
Yes.
You can't miss what she's been able to do. You can't miss that.
Well, she was the one, I think, that got every single ball on the first, right? Every single one. So all I heard Jeff say, and Tiffany gets another one, and Tiffany gets another one, and Tiffany gets another one. You go, girl.
Oh, for sure. And I think we can all see that, and that's amazing. But being out there, how hard is it to almost like shake the perceptions of you early on? Like, because early on she stunk in these challenges.
When you go back to tribal, when you go back to camp, you debrief the challenge.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know that the first thing that she's going to say is, I can't believe I got 3 of those. I felt so good today. Like she's going to make some comment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Just so that everyone knows.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do want to know, who's your winner pick?
Ooh, yes.
So right now, I think I want Shan to win.
But who do you think will win?
I think a lot of people want Shan to win.
Me too.
I mean, I don't know who will win. I don't think Danny's going to make it to the end because he's going to be too much of a challenge threat. Listen, if the girls could finally stick together, she could win.
Which one? Who do you think? Shan?
But yeah, I don't know.
I think Shan is so interesting, and I think the fact that you bring up her being a pastor, how that could for better or for worse impact her game when it comes to like final tribal. If I'm pretty sure the players know that she's a pastor. Like if she gets to being,
I don't know. I was thinking that. Do they know?
I don't think she's
like
talked about it.
Big Brother, they all lied about their occupation. Like do you watch Big Brother?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so when X won, nobody knew he was a lawyer. They all lied about their occupation, which I thought was great. Why wouldn't you lie here about your occupation?
I just think they didn't have enough time to show us. They had to show us, who's going on the boat to Secret Island and doing this the first episode. Like, that's what I want to see.
Does anyone know that Danny's an ex-NFL player? I would not have known that.
Well, when he went to the summit in episode 1, I forget who said it, but they all thought Xander's tribe thought that he was a football player. So they don't know that, obviously, but he even brought it up. And then, Danny covered up and like, coach. So
yeah.
My question is, do you think it is a good idea to go in and lie about what job you do? Because my only issue is you have to know that job basically inside and out. Because if people start asking you questions, you could really get in trouble.
You have to pick a job that's easy. Like, oh my God, I'm a waitress. Oh my God, you don't lie about being a doctor and then call yourself a scientist. You know what I mean? Like you have to do an easy job. Like, I'm an administrative assistant, or I'm a lawyer, a waitress, or whatever. Yeah. The thing is, if they think you make a lot of money, that's not a good thing.
How was that for you being on like the white collar tribe? Like I imagine you didn't have many outs to really lie about your job because of the tribe you were on. Like you really couldn't.
Right. And so I didn't know.
Were you planning on it?
And the thing is, if you remember, even at the first challenge, both of those tribes were against us. They wanted white collar to lose so bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, don't hate the white collars. Hello.
Yeah.
But they did. They definitely did. They were like working together and clapping as soon as, when blue collar came through in the clutch.
Yeah. And it's really, I didn't even think about like whether Shan told them or not of her being a pastor, but like the impact that could have at the end of the game. Also just for the fact of that she is a woman, and sometimes players are judged harshly, like women are judged more harshly than men for like the decisions they make and the way they play. If they play a little bit more aggressively, like even though she won, Sarah Lucina in Game Changers was raked over the coals for the way that she lied to people. And like Brad Culpepper winning all these challenges. Oh, he's amazing. He was nice and aggressive. It's like, wow, why are we calling this out? But Shan's line, like toward the end, that she just said, "I don't want to be a villain, but I want to be an assassin." I just thought it was so interesting. What's the line there?
Like, it's a very, very, very fine line,
Yeah.
and you know what it is? It's like you never know how the people are going to take it.
Yep.
You know, and can they see the gameplay, or are they so hurt? Yeah. And it's interesting because I played a sequester game online.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
We remember.
Oh yeah.
With all my peeps, my friends, so to speak. And I remember after playing that game and when they voted me out, I was so hurt. I was so pissed.
Oh, I remember.
And I'm like, you call me your friend? How dare you? I mean, I remember texting people and like, I cannot believe you voted against me. And this was a game for nothing.
Yeah.
You know? This was a game just because I'm competitive, and I was like, how could you vote against me? You lied to my face. Did you imagine like going back on a season, like, and then everything's on the line? It's like totally different when you play at a second time because you know everybody and you're friends with people.
Yes. Yeah, that was crazy to watch. I have to be honest, because everyone was there to play.
Oh my God. And it's so hilarious. It's like,
you're playing to win.
Yeah, I lost on a freaking even number. Like, are you kidding me right now? If I would have just said an odd number, I would have been totally fine.
Oh my gosh. I am really curious. So Jeff has like talked about like wanting to have you back. Have you actually been asked back yet? Or like what's been the situation with that?
I know. Jeff said he was bringing me back, and literally I've gotten a call for 31, 34, 38, 40, and then they changed the theme, so they picked something else or something. I was actually an alternate for 34.
Okay.
I was this close to going.
And they picked Sierra Dawn Thomas.
And they picked Sierra Dawn Thomas because there were too many old ladies on the season. I'm just like,
it doesn't matter. I feel like if you just want whoever you think is going to be the best cast and the best television.
Yeah.
In what universe is Sierra Dawn Thomas the best cast other than she's good looking? I'm sorry. What is it? What are they seeing over you?
It was heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie. But you can't get me down. I'm working out. I got my muscles.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
When they're ready for me, okay, Survivor. Don't think I'm gonna be scared, no matter how old I am.
They're
obviously taking names.
They're having
that
100%.
The oldest winner on Survivor.
I cannot wait for that. But one of my last questions for you, Carolyn, is I know you have to go soon. Who is going home next week?
Who is going home next week? I have to look at the cast again. If there is not a swap, Jeannie is going home.
Ooh.
No, right. Do you think they're for sure gonna lose then if there's not a swap?
Yeah.
I think it's. I'm gonna say Xander, but I definitely could see that. All right. Do we? Yeah. Carolyn, I don't know if you want to stay, but I think it's a good point for us to shift into the ratings part of the podcast. Do you want to stay for that, Carolyn, or do you want to bounce?
No, I'm going to bounce.
All right. I just want to first off say thank you so much for being here. I've had such a blast having you, Lauren. I know you have too.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming and joining us. It's been great to just hear not only your perspective on this season, but just what your experience was like on your season in particular, because a lot of people don't necessarily hear all the behind the scenes action. And so that's what people want. So we're so grateful that you were able to join us for this.
And to anybody who was upset with that we didn't talk about this episode of, I'm sorry. When you have Mama C here, I'm going to talk. I want to hear her talk about her season because it's so interesting. And you kept getting me going. I'm like, I love this. Can we keep going? It was just so much fun. I like to hear you talk about literally anything and everything.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming.
All righty.
Really appreciate it.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. So, all right. So that was Mama C. Wasn't that fun?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, easy to talk to. Such a great guest. Glad that we were able to get her on to hear her thoughts on everything.
All right. And I know you and I are both running out of time, but let's quickly rate and maybe eviscerate these players a little bit because I have thoughts. All right,
This is going to be the fastest.
Oh, yes, it
ratings
is. All
ever.
right, let's get through Yasa. We didn't have much from anybody. What do you have for Evie?
I think I'm just going to keep Evie where I had Evie at a 7 because we just didn't see much of them this episode, just the little turtles.
For sure. I'm staying with the 8 for the same reason. All right. What about Liana? I imagine you're keeping your 8?
Keeping my 8 for Liana. I actually think that she's a little bit under the radar and could just jump out and take control of this game.
For sure. I think that's definitely possible. When I see her maybe overtake Evie, I would flip on her, but I still think right now that I have a little bit more faith in Evie. So I am going to keep my 7 for her. All right, moving on to the woman who did incredibly well this challenge, said she's completely motivated by food. What do you have for Tiffany?
I mean, honestly, I have to give Tiffany a 6 just because great in last couple of challenges. I really think she's finding her groove right now, and I just don't think she's at the bottom of this tribe at the moment unless Evie or Liana wants to shake something up.
For sure. I went up to a 5 with her because we didn't get much from her, but she did really well in the challenge, and I do think we're seeing more. It's more likely that the women would go with that Liana and Evie would go with her and form like an all women's alliance and just take out Xander next.
Because she has calmed down quite a bit, and I get why she was not as calm, because if your name's being thrown out there, you just want to stay.
For sure. And the person who I think is clearly going home next if this tribe loses, that's Xander. I'm at a 2 for Xander. Not that he's such a bad player, but he's just in a really bad spot. Partially his own doing, but partially kind of just the bad luck with the viewer advantage. I think he doesn't have a vote. That makes him a big deal. And now he needs 2 people to not only find the advantage within the next episode and also say the phrase that pays. So I think unless he finds it, he's in a big pile of doo-doo. What say you?
Yeah, Xander to me a 4 only because really bad spot within the tribe. The only thing I do think he has those social skills where he can talk to people and maybe be able to flip the script in that situation that they do indeed go to tribal council. And I gotta say, I'm liking Xander and I really don't want to see him go. So I'm hoping that tribe doesn't lose.
I'm kind of with you. I think this would be an interesting vote. See what happens, but alas, let's move on to Luvu, where everybody's still intact. What do you think about Danny?
I think Danny and Shan at the moment are sitting at the best position on this tribe. So solid 7 for Danny. I just don't see any way that Danny goes home. And I think he really has those genuine personal connections with people, because you even saw he didn't want to necessarily throw the challenge, but he listened to Deshaun and said, you know what, if Deshaun wants to do this, I guess I can do it for him.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you there. I think he's now in the best position of his tribe. I'm still sticking with the 7. So it's the first one we agree on. And the reason I'm saying he's in the best position is that I think Deshaun, despite being confided in by Erica about wanting to target Sydney, I think the fact that he spearheaded the throwing of the challenge, which ended up failing, and the fact that I think if Sydney's maybe all of a sudden decides, you know what, Erica, Deshaun told me you're coming after me. Let's talk about this. I think the fact that he's like the snitch, I think could come back to bite him if things don't go well. But I still think he's in a good position. So I'm at a 6 for him.
I'm giving Deshaun a 7. Even if Sydney goes to Erica, which I don't actually think Sydney's going to do that, because the way Sydney's playing the game, I think she's going to be loyal to the people that she made an alliance with from the beginning, which is Deshaun and Danny at this point with what we are actually seeing. So I think Deshaun kind of knows what's going on. The only thing that could come back to bite him is if people out him for being the one that was throwing the challenge, and then you have Nasir coming after him and Heather coming after him, and then maybe Erica, but I just don't know who would spill the beans.
I'm not sure either, but I do think there's a chance, and I think that chance is what could sink Deshaun's game. But let's move on to somebody who may have sunk their own game, and that's Erica. What are your thoughts on Erica?
Ooh, I mean, I commend her for throwing someone's name out there, because she genuinely actually thought she could trust Deshaun. So that's not like a terrible thing on her end. She just maybe didn't read the room correctly and didn't know how close Shan and Sydney actually were. So she just falls at a 4 for me. I think she could be in trouble, but as we've seen, this game is moving very quickly and it's day to day. So I still think Erica is going to find a way to maybe get herself out of this if they do go to tribal.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm at a 4 as well because I think there are 3 people in the game that are targeting her now. The move to confine Deshawn I think is okay, but the fact that she didn't need to because they weren't in a position where they were going to tribal, I think is like she almost said she was too eager to play, unfortunately. But I just really hope it doesn't come back to bite her. I don't know if it will because I don't know if this tribe is losing. But if this tribe loses, another person I think may have bitten themselves in the butt. This episode is Heather, actually. I feel like I'm being generous giving Heather a 4 because I think she's well liked socially, and I think the way that like her tribe, like especially Danny, came to support her after like it was really sweet. But I also think maybe it's a little too like late to talk about like tribe strength, but I do think it could just be all right. Heather's the easy vote. Let's get her out. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I'm giving Heather a 5, and this is why. Danny and Heather, you can tell, have some type of a connection the way Danny went to Heather after that challenge was over. So I do think there might be a small little piece there. And if Heather's in good with Danny, that means Heather might be okay with Deshawn, and therefore maybe something with Sydney, even though we've seen in a secret scene that Heather, was trying to throw Sydney under the bus. This tribe there's so many different dynamics that could be forming that we don't necessarily know. But I think Heather is one step above Erica at this point in time.
Fair enough. Let's move on. All right, so the person who I am putting at a 5, who I think is actually in a better position now than all the women, which is surprising to say, I think is Nasir, actually. I mean, he was Superman in this episode. I mean, I'm trying to like set my personal life aside because if this was like how much I like him, I give him a 10. But I think the fact that he just absolutely killed it in this challenge, he's still providing for the group. I think they're all realizing, you know what? Nasir's got that fight in him and that spirit, and they're all happy for him. And I think, yeah, he's not in the best position, but he's aware of where he's at. And for now, I just don't think he's the biggest target where he would go home. So that's why I have him at a 5. What say you?
So Nasir, I also have at a 5 right now, but I will say that I think he's in less trouble at the moment. But as we've seen in every episode, his storyline goes up and down. 1 minute he's in trouble, the next minute they want to keep him. So you could even see in the next episode where it's fluctuating again. We just don't know where Nasir is exactly because he gave information to Sydney, and what Sydney do? Went and ran and told a bunch of other people what Nasir did. So clearly Nasir's not reading it correctly on who Nasir can actually trust. So it's going to be interesting to see more of who's in what alliance because we haven't gotten enough of that.
All right. And lastly on this tribe, maybe the most interesting person to talk about, maybe in the whole game even, is Sydney. Why don't you start with Sydney?
So Sydney's confessionals. Wow.
Yeah. She's confident.
That's the thing. The thing about it is she's very confident, and she's the type of character where I think you either love her or you hate her.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to be honest, I thought her confessionals were great. I don't have anything against Sydney at all on this season. Do I think she's going to go all the way to the end? No, but I think she's in it for a little bit of time, and I think she's actually getting set up to get blindsided brutally. So I don't think she would go if their tribe goes to tribal council first. So that's why I am also going to slot her in with the Heather Nasir at a 5 because I think there's just a huge gap between the top 2 people on their tribe and then the bottom 4 people that I would consider. But I got nothing against Sydney.
I agree with you a lot of what you're saying. I like Heather being like Sydney being this overconfident character in the confessionals, but I'm gonna be honest, I want to see her get that blindside that's like coming, or I want to see her just completely not knowing it and getting blindsided, just to like see the shock face. Like nothing against her personally, obviously, because she's giving me such great entertainment. But I do think she's a player where I could just see it. I really could see her just getting blindsided, thinking she's in too good of a spot. And having Erica having said her name, Heather previously having wanted her out, Nasir already probably isn't her best friend anymore. I think the more and more people that at least start thinking of her as a threat are at one point going to act on it. Maybe it's right now if they lose, if maybe it's not, but I'm going to put her in the same position as Eric and Heather and give her a 4.
Yeah, I mean, she's interesting and she's entertaining. You can't take that away from her, but I just have concerns moving forward in the game, and maybe
sure.
we'll see something different. You never know. Every single cast member can change your perception of them as the season progresses.
For sure. Let's move on to maybe the most interesting tribe, the tribe down to 3 people. That's Ua and my girl Jeannie. I love Jeannie. I love so many of these people. I'm impressed that she got out of this current situation, that she made it through. She's obviously still in a bad spot. Now I think she's in an even worse spot, down as one person with another twosome there that's rather tight. But for the way she played this episode and the fact that I think with the shot in the dark and the threat of it that she could use, doesn't mean to me she's completely gone if they lose. So I'm putting her at a 4. What do you think about Jeannie? Is there any shot for her?
I got to give Jeannie a 3 because I just don't see any way Jeannie can get out of this. I mean, we talked through different scenarios overall in this podcast here, but I'm just really, really concerned with what's going to happen. If she can figure out which person could maybe flip and give them a really good sell, then whole new ball game. We're just gonna have to wait and see. But for the time being, I think she's the most in trouble.
For sure. It's interesting that we see in the preview. I know not to I don't buy into much of the preview, but we do literally see her looking at a beware advantage, and maybe it's the Xander thing. I'm not sure, but I'm just interested to see that she still has a little bit of fight left in her, and she still has the shot in the dark, which I think could really shake things up. Because if she didn't have it, I'd be saying she's gone and dead to rights. But I think there's a slimmer of hope, and the slimmer of hope that she has, I think, could bounce back on my treasure in Ricard. What do you think about Ricard right now?
I think Ricard's doing great so far. So for me, Ricard 7 for sure. I just think that Ricard is someone to me that wants to make a move, but is biding his time to make that move. I think he just has a good read on other people and might know that Shan might be perceived as the person that's in charge of their duo alliance. So I think Ricard's really, really smart and does actually know what's going on fully.
I agree with you. I think in terms of that, I think there's a lot of potential with Ricard, and I think if he can get out of this tribe and start working with get to emerge and start working with other people, I think he can show how good of a player he has and where that potential is. But looking where he's at right now, he has a good relationship with Shan, who's arguably the best player in the game, or one of the best. He doesn't have a really good relationship with Jeannie, the only other person on his tribe. And I think if it comes down to it, Shan's more likely to target him than I think he is to her, and I think that could be his weak spot. So that, combined with the fact that Jeannie's more likely to target him than Shan, and the shot in the dark could really screw things up. I'm putting Ricard at a 5, actually. So he's better than Jeannie, based on the fact he's probably not going home, but for the fact that there's one person on this tribe who's nearly completely safe, and it's not him, it concerns me. And the person that is completely safe is the mafia pastor, not a villain, but an assassin, Shan. Lauren, what do you think about Shan?
Well, you can never say completely safe because you actually never know. Because
for sure.
If Jeannie plays that shot in the dark then is safe, we could see a whole new ball game.
We could.
But Shan, for me, got to give an 8. Huge credit for, getting the advantage from JD. Love to see it. It was a great moment, great television moment. I think Shan is still at the top of the tribe, but as I said, we could see things fluctuating around. I think Ricard and Shan both know what they want in terms of an end game, and we could see some shiftiness occurring, maybe not within this tribe in particular, but when you get further along down the road.
For sure. I think what Shan brings to the table, I think, is so much of what you want to see in a Survivor player. My only concern is that everybody's going to have to realize it. I think if she goes to the merge, especially as a part of a tribe of 3 or 2, the only person who didn't get a vote. And I think it's not long before maybe it gets out that, oh, she was running things. That's my only concern. But I see the potential for Shan as through the roof. So yeah, I'm at an 8 with her as well. And Lauren, do you have any more thoughts about this episode before we take it home?
Honestly, no. I thought it was the best episode thus far this season. It's great. I think it's actually heating up now, which I'm really intrigued to see what happens moving forward. I'm excited. I have been higher than most people on the season, and I'm going to continue being that way because I love it.
Yes. This cast is delivering. Jeff, production, this is the episode we want. We got to learn about these people. We got to see them interact. We got to see them play the game and not Ship Wheel Island. It was all glorious. I love these people, and I feel terrible for JD, but all in all, a great episode. Lauren, you want to take us home?
Yeah, honestly, everyone, we have so much content going on over here at Reality NSFW. We have this podcast going. We have the podcast right after the episode of Survivor on Wednesday nights, and then Thursdays we have challenge coverage. Be sure to check us out. Like and subscribe, and also just be on the lookout for new things coming to Reality and NSFW. I'm sure we're going to have a couple other shows that are coming your way. And also, if you like everything that we're doing here, become a patron at adfreensfw.com. Johnny and Matt do Australian coverage there just for the patrons. They also do a weekly Q&A, which is fantastic. They bring on a patron pretty much every week, so you get to hang out with Johnny and Matt, interact with them, and yeah, just continue to stay tuned with all the coverage we have with this current Survivor season. It's amazing. And Alex, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was great to have Mama C on this podcast with us.
Can't wait to be back with you next week. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Lucy Nicotine is a company founded by Caltech scientists and former smokers looking for a better and cleaner nicotine alternative. Finally, tobacco alternatives that don't suck.
Researched and developed for 3 years to be made for people, not patients. Lucy has created a nicotine gum with 4 milligrams of nicotine that comes in 3 flavors: wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. Lucy also has a lozenge with 4 milligrams of nicotine in cherry ice flavor. Each and every flavor actually tastes great, and it's convenient and discreet. Products can be enjoyed anywhere, on flights, at work, on the go, or even in the gym.
I am so happy that Lucy is sponsoring us. Ever since they came on board, I have gotten no less than 5 of my friends transitioned over to Lucy and put their cigarettes down. They like the gum. I'm used to seeing the packages all around. This stuff is great, and it's really helping people make much healthier choices. So get on board and join the Lucy movement.
Hey, it's 2021. Get rid of your cigarettes, unplug your vape, throw out your dip, and get some Lucy nicotine gum or lozenges. This is the real deal. A subscription to Lucy comes directly to your door each month. It's so simple that you don't even have to leave your house because Lucy has delivery down.
Reality NSFW listeners, go to lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR to get 20% off all products, including gum or lozenges. That's lucy.co and use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Also, I have to give this disclaimer. Warning, this product contains nicotine derived from tobacco. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's lucy.co, and be sure to use that promo code SURVIVOR.
This episode of Reality NSFW is sponsored by Blue Chew. Say it with us, Blue Chew. Blue Chew is making waves and bringing more confidence to the bedroom by offering chewable tablets that can help men get stronger and longer-lasting erections. That's right, we're giving away super hard dicks.
Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men achieve harder, stronger erections to combat all forms of ED.
Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor offices, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part, it's all done online.
Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. Don't like swallowing pills? No problem here. Blue Chew's sildenafil and tadalafil tablets are chewable. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and they prepare and ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy.
Hey, if you're looking to give that immunity idol to someone, or you don't want to be voted out of a crater, don't worry, Blue Chew's got you covered. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information.
And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code SURVIVOR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's Blue Chew, BlueChew.com, promo code SURVIVOR to receive your first month free. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.